You try the meds, the planners, the hacks, and you're still drowning. Why? Because of restlessness, distraction, and constant overwhelming feeling. It might not be a focus problem, it might be fear. Here's a scary statistic: up to 50% of adults with ADHD have an anxiety disorder. I'll be showing you how to tell the difference and stop treating the wrong condition. If you treat anxiety with ADHD stimulants, you could be adding fuel to the fire. And if you treat ADHD with anti-anxiety meds, you might feel calmer but still unable to finish a single task. In this video, we're going to walk through the 5 definite signs that your focus problem might actually be a high-functioning anxiety in disguise. We're going to look at how you handle relaxation, deadlines, and the nagging voice in your head. William James, the famous American philosopher and psychologist, said the greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another, which leads to our sign number 1, reassurance seeking. People with ADHD ask a lot of questions, but they're usually information checking. What time was that meeting? Where did I put my keys? Did you say Tuesday or Thursday? They ask because their working memory dropped the ball, or simply put, they forgot. Once you give them the answer, then they start working on the task. People with anxiety ask questions to regulate their emotions. This is called the feedback anxiety cycle. They ask, are you mad at me? Did that email sound good? Are you sure I locked the door? Well, here's the catch. Giving an anxious person the answer only offers temporary relief. They might feel reassured for a few minutes, but soon the doubt returns. Often they start thinking the response was just someone being polite. If you notice yourself asking the same questions over and over again to ease that sense of dread, that's a sign of anxiety and not ADHD. On to sign number 2, restlessness. Both groups say I can't sit still, but what does that actually feel like inside your body? For someone with ADHD, restlessness is often described as being driven by a motor. It's an energy surplus. You bounce your leg, you click your pen, you pace around the room because your body is trying to generate stimulation to keep your brain awake. It's often unconscious. You might not even realize you're doing it. And usually it's not painful, it's just fidgety. Anxiety restlessness feels tense and on edge. Your shoulders tighten, your jaw clenches, and you sense impending doom. You can't sit still because your body is flooded with adrenaline, preparing you to run from a threat, also known as fight or flight. Here's the difference. If you run a mile or do a heavy workout, ADHD restlessness usually goes away. You feel better because you burned off that energy. But if anxiety, even if you're exhausted, your mind won't shut off. You lie in bed tired. Your brain is still looping on worries. That is the wired but tried feeling of anxiety. If any of this is hitting home, take a moment to subscribe. I'm always exploring topics like this to help find clarity and the right tools for your unique brain. Next, sign number 3 is a big one, procrastination. Almost everyone puts things off, but the reason you do it says all about what is actually going on in your brain. For people with ADHD, procrastination usually feels like paralysis. It's not that you don't want to do the task. You might be actually desperate to get it done. You might be sitting on the couch screaming inside your head, get up, do the thing, but your body just won't move. This happens because your brain is low on dopamine, the fuel needed to start an engine. And without that fuel, you can't bridge the gap between thinking about the task and doing it. It feels like you're frozen. Here's an ADHD example. If you plan to clean your room, and then you pick up a book, you start reading, then you notice a sock on the floor, head to the laundry, realize the washer is full, and 2 hours later, you're still doing laundry while your room is still messy. You didn't avoid cleaning on purpose, you just got lost in a pinball game of distraction. Anxiety procrastination is completely different. It's not about getting distracted, it's about avoidance. You're avoiding the task because deep down you're afraid of it. Maybe you're scared you won't be able to do it perfectly, or it'll be too hard. This leads to something called productive procrastination. This is when you do a bunch of other chores to avoid the one big thing you're scared of. Here's an anxiety example. You have a big presentation, but you end up reorganizing your closet, cleaning the bathroom, answering easy emails. You stay busy to feel better while avoiding the real challenge. So look at your habits. If you get stuck in paralysis or go down random rabbit holes, that's the ADHD brain. But if you keep yourself busy with safe chores to avoid the scary ones, that's the anxious brain. Before we dive into important signs number 4 and 5, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these signs feel more relatable to you? Share your thoughts in the comments below because your experience can help others feel less alone. Sign number 4 focuses on your reaction to deadlines, a critical factor, particularly for high achieving individuals. For ADHD, deadlines are magic. They trigger a surge of dopamine, adrenaline. It clears the fogs, enabling hyperfocus. We call this the deadline high. You write that 10-page paper in 3 hours. You might hate the stress, but it makes you productive. For anxiety, deadlines are kryptonite. You're already operating at high stress. When you add pressure of a deadline, you don't hyperfocus. You simply shut down. Your brain goes blank. You might feel paralyzed, not by the lack of interest, but through sheer panic. You might call in sick or avoid work entirely because of the fear of failure becomes too overwhelming to manage. I'll give you a personal example. I remember the time after my dad had passed away, and it felt like the ground had been pulled out under me. It was like living with constant anxiety, and even simple things felt overwhelming. Whenever I had a research paper due or an interview coming up, my panic just would take over. And deep down, I wanted to succeed badly. But the fear of failing was just paralyzing. It was like my confidence had vanished, and all I could think about was messing up. So if deadlines sharpen your focus, it's ADHD. However, if they paralyze you, then it's anxiety. And finally, sign number 5. And this is called the relaxation paradox. This is the single best way to tell the difference between the wandering mind, or ADHD, and the worried mind, or anxiety. Well, here's the test. Imagine you're in a perfectly calm environment. No deadlines, no emails, just you and a hobby you love. Maybe it's reading a book, painting, even playing a video game. If you have ADHD, a low-stress environment can actually make your focus worse. Why? Because ADHD brain is chronically understimulated. It has low levels of dopamine and norepinephrine. When things are too quiet, your brain gets bored and seeks stimulation. Checking your phone, grabbing snacks, staring at the wall, you can't focus because there isn't enough pressure to turn your brain on. But if you have anxiety, calm environments can help you thrive. When the pressure is off, your cortisol level drops, your fight or flight response deactivates, and suddenly your brain clears up. You can read that book. You can focus on that project. So ask yourself this. Do I lose focus even when relaxed? That's ADHD. Do I only lose focus under the stress or fear of failure? That points to anxiety. But if your focus returns when you feel safe, anxiety is likely the culprit. So why is all of this important? Because of something called secondary anxiety. Many individuals with ADHD end up developing an anxiety as a result of the ADHD symptoms. So I'll give you an example here. If you spend your whole life misplacing keys, missing appointments, or being criticized for seemingly lazy, anxiety is inevitable. Over time, you begin to lose trust in yourself. A study by universities in the Netherlands and in the US found that anxiety alters activity in ADHD, reducing activation in key regions during working memory tasks in your brain, such as mentally calculating a tip or organizing a grocery list. This suggests that distinct brain mechanisms when both conditions overlap. And simply put, brain works differently when ADHD and anxiety happen together. If your anxiety is more about performance, thoughts like I'm worried I'll be late or I might forget something, it could actually be untreated ADHD. When ADHD is managed, that type of anxiety often fades because you trust your brain again. On the other hand, if your anxiety feels more general, where it's about health, family safety, or worst case scenarios, along with focus struggles, that's likely a primary anxiety disorder that needs its own treatment. If you notice the constant worry, procrastination that feels productive, or freezing under deadlines, it's worth talking to your doctor about anxiety and not just ADHD. Again, you're not broken or lazy. You do not need fixing. You just need a plan that works for your brain. It's like realizing you've been caring for a lime tree thinking it was a lemon tree. The tree still has leaves and branches, but once you know what it really is, everything about how you help it thrive changes. Before we go, let's make it crystal clear with the 5 differences you can see in your daily life. Asking questions to fill a memory gap, ADHD. Asking questions to calm a worry loop, that's anxiety. Feel like you're in an engine that's pushing you to move? ADHD. Feel tense and on edge? Anxiety. Feel completely frozen and doing nothing? ADHD. But cleaning the whole house to avoid the one scary task? Anxiety. And if deadlines give you a super focus, that's ADHD. But if deadlines make you freeze in fear, that's anxiety. And if focus improves when you're calm, that's anxiety. But calm makes you bored and unfocused, that's ADHD. And remember, it's possible to have both ADHD and anxiety. But the first step is figuring out which one is leading, your bored brain or your scared brain. Once you know, you can find strategies that truly work and start moving towards a peace of mind. Thank you for watching, and if this video helped you bring some clarity, please consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear this. And clicking that like button because you never know who it might help.